She, a wealthy 50-year-old woman, never expected to fall in love with a 24-year-old chauffeur. Despite their difference in age and class, they discovered that love could overcome any barrier. The blaring of the horn echoed down the busy Manhattan street, followed by the squeal of tires and the metallic sound of a collision. Victoria Sinclair, a 50-year-old woman known for her imposing presence and determined gaze, felt her body thrown forward, the seatbelt holding her firmly to the leather seat of her Mercedes-Benz. As the world around her stopped spinning, she blinked a few times, trying to process what had happened. The airbag hadn't deployed, but the impact had been enough to leave her dazed. Victoria looked around, her green eyes quickly assessing the situation. The traffic around her was starting to pile up, horns sounding impatiently. With her hands trembling slightly, she opened the car door and stepped out, her Louboutin heels touching the asphalt with a familiar click. The cold October air enveloped her, making her tighten her cashmere coat around her body. Victoria walked to the front of her car, where a young man was crouched down examining the damage. "Are you all right?" His voice was surprisingly calm considering the circumstances. He stood up, and Victoria found herself looking into a pair of deep, worried brown eyes. Yes, I'm fine," she replied, her voice regaining its usual composure. "What happened?" The young man ran his hand through his dark hair, messing it up even more. "A cab cut in front of me. I braked, but—" He gestured to the damaged cars. "I'm sorry, Mum, I should have been more careful." Victoria studied him for a moment. He looked no older than 25, wearing faded jeans and a worn leather jacket. His hands were calloused, she noticed, those of someone used to manual labor, a stark contrast to her own manicured and well-groomed hands. "What's your name?" she asked, her voice softer than she had intended. "Noah Martinez," he replied, holding out his hand. Victoria hesitated for a moment before shaking it, surprised by the firmness of his grip. "Victoria Sinclair," she introduced herself, noticing the glint of recognition in his eyes. Her surname was well known in New York business circles. Before they could continue the conversation, a policeman approached, notebook in hand. "Was anyone hurt?" he asked, looking from one to the other. "No, officer," Noah replied quickly. "It was just a slight bump." The officer nodded, starting to ask questions and take down the details of the accident. Victoria watched as Noah answered calmly and clearly, taking full responsibility for what had happened. She found herself admiring his honesty and composure. When the policeman finished and walked away, Victoria found herself hesitating to leave. There was something intriguing about Noah, something that made her want to prolong the meeting. "Did you say you were a driver?" she asked, remembering a comment he had made to the policeman. Noah nodded. "Yes, ma'am. Private driver, and sometimes I make deliveries." Victoria looked at her damaged car and then back at Noah. An idea began to form in her mind. "Well, Mr. Martinez, it looks like I'm going to need a driver for the next few days, until my car is fixed. Considering that you're partly responsible for my current situation, perhaps you could help me out." Noah's eyes widened in surprise. Of course, Mrs. Sinclair. It would be my pleasure, and a way of making amends for the trouble I've caused." Victoria felt a smile forming on her lips. "Excellent. Let's exchange contact information, and I'll get back to you today to iron out the details." As they exchanged numbers, Victoria couldn't help but notice the slight tremor in Noah's hands, the way his eyes avoided hers for a moment too long. She wondered if he was nervous because of the accident, or if there was something more. The sound of a new horn brought them back to reality. The traffic around them was getting more and more congested. "I think we'd better go," Noah said, looking around. "I can call a cab for you if you prefer." Victoria shook her head. "That won't be necessary. My office is only a few blocks away. A walk will do me good." She paused, studying Noah for a moment longer. "I'll expect your call later so we can confirm the arrangements." Noah nodded, a hesitant smile on his lips. "Of course, Mrs. Sinclair. I'll be in touch as soon as possible." As she walked away, her heels echoing on the sidewalk, Victoria couldn't help but look back. Noah was still there, watching her go. Their gazes met briefly, and she felt something inexplicable. a mixture of curiosity and something deeper that she couldn't name. The rest of the day passed like a blur for Victoria. Meetings followed one after the other, contracts were signed, decisions were made. But in every moment of silence, her mind returned to those brown eyes, to those calloused hands, to the calm voice that had taken responsibility without hesitation. When she finally arrived home, an elegant duplex apartment overlooking Central Park, Victoria allowed herself a moment of reflection. She poured herself a glass of red wine and walked over to the window to look out at the lights of the city that never sleeps. Her phone vibrated, announcing a message. It was from Noah, confirming his availability to start the next day. Victoria felt a smile form on her lips as she replied, confirming the time and meeting place. As she prepared for bed, Victoria couldn't help thinking how strange the day had been. In the morning, she was just another successful executive, focused on her career and keeping her empire on track. Now she found herself looking forward to the dawn, curious to see where this new and unexpected situation would take her. Across town, in a small apartment in the Bronx, Noah Martinez stared at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Victoria Sinclair's face danced in his mind. Her piercing green eyes, her elegant bearing, her soft but authoritative voice. He knew he should be grateful for the job opportunity, especially considering the circumstances of the meeting. But there was something else, a feeling he couldn't explain. Both of them, separated by kilometers of distance and worlds of experience, fell asleep with the same thought. What would tomorrow bring? What had started out as a simple traffic accident seemed to be turning into something more, something that neither of them could have foreseen or been prepared to face. The first lights of the morning found Victoria already on her feet, meticulously preparing for the day. She had chosen a grey Chanel outfit, elegant and professional, but with a touch of femininity that she usually reserved for special occasions. As she applied her favorite lipstick, a soft shade of coral, she found herself questioning her own motivations. Why was she so eager to impress a simple driver? Noah, for his part, woke up before the alarm, a mixture of nervousness and excitement coursing through his veins. He put on his best white shirt and black dress pants, pieces he usually saved for important job interviews. Looking at himself in the mirror, he adjusted his tie for the third time, wondering if it was suitable for the job ahead of him. The clock struck 7:45 when Noah parked the rental car in front of Victoria's building. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his nerves, before getting out of the vehicle. At precisely 8 Victoria emerged from the building, her presence immediately capturing Noah's attention. "Good morning, Mrs. Sinclair," Noah greeted, opening the car door for her. "Good morning, Mr. Martinez," Victoria replied, her voice soft but with a touch of formality. She got into the car, the scent of her soft perfume filling the confined space. As Noah took the wheel, Victoria watched him through the rearview mirror. There was a tension in the air, a mixture of curiosity and something else that neither of them dared to name. "Where to, Mrs. Sinclair?" Noah asked, his eyes meeting hers in the mirror. For a moment, Victoria hesitated. Her daily routine would take her straight to the office, but something inside her yearned for a change. "How about a coffee first? I know a lovely place a few blocks from here." Noah nodded, a small smile playing on his lips. "As you wish, Mrs. Sinclair." As the car glided through the streets of Manhattan, a comfortable silence settled between them. Victoria found herself studying Noah's profile, noticing the strong line of his jaw, the concentration in his eyes as he navigated the morning traffic. Noah, for his part, was intensely aware of her presence in the back seat, her soft perfume and the way she occasionally adjusted a lock of hair. Arriving at the coffee shop, Noah quickly got out to open the door for Victoria. When she emerged from the car, their gazes met, and for a brief moment, the world around them seemed to disappear. "Thank you, Mr. Martinez," Victoria said, her voice a little lower than usual. "My pleasure, Mrs. Sinclair," Noah replied, feeling a slight blush creep up his neck. As they walked together to the cafeteria, they were both painfully aware of the distance between them, not only physical, but also in terms of age, experience, and social standing. Yet there was something undeniable hanging in the air, a connection that transcended these seemingly insurmountable barriers. The day had only just begun, but for Victoria Sinclair and Noah Martinez, it was already clear that their lives had taken an unexpected turn. What had started out as a simple traffic accident was turning into something more, something that neither of them could have foreseen or been fully prepared to face. And as they walked into the coffee shop side by side, they both wondered silently, where would this journey take them? The aroma of freshly roasted coffee enveloped Victoria and Noah as soon as they entered the cozy coffee shop. The place is called the Hidden Bean, was a hidden gem amidst the frenzy of Manhattan, a haven of tranquility with its exposed brick walls, hanging plants, and soft lighting. Victoria walked confidently to a table in the corner, near a large window that offered a view of the busy street outside. Noah hesitated for a moment, unsure whether to sit with her or wait somewhere nearby. "Join me, Mr. Martinez," Victoria said, gesturing to the chair in front of him. "Consider this part of your job, getting to know your employer better." Noah nodded, sitting down with a mixture of nervousness and curiosity. "Of course, Mrs. Sinclair. Thank you." A young waitress approached, smiling warmly. "Good morning. What can I get you?" "A cappuccino, please," Victoria replied, before looking at Noah. "And you, Mr. Martinez?" Noah glanced quickly at the menu. Black coffee, please." As the waitress walked away, a momentary silence fell over the table. Victoria watched Noah, noticing the way his fingers drummed lightly on the table, a subtle sign of nervousness. "So, Mr. Martinez," she began, breaking the silence, "tell me a bit about yourself. How did you end up becoming a driver?" Noah took a deep breath, his eyes meeting hers. "Well, it wasn't exactly planned. I was at college, studying engineering, but—" He paused. A flash of something, sadness, frustration, flashed through his eyes. "Things got complicated. I had to give up my studies to help my family. Driving was something I could do to earn money quickly." Victoria tilted her head, puzzled. "That must have been difficult, putting your dreams aside for your family." Noah shrugged, a resigned smile on his lips. "Family is family, isn't it? We do what we need to do." Just then, the waitress returned with their drinks. Victoria thanked her, taking a sip of her cappuccino before continuing. "What about your parents? What do they do?" "My father—" Noah hesitated, his eyes dropping to his coffee cup. "He passed away 2 years ago, cancer. My mother works as a nurse, but she's been struggling with health problems lately. That's why—" "That you've had to take on more responsibility," Victoria added softly. She reached out, almost touching Noah's hand, before restraining herself. "I'm sorry for your loss." Noah nodded, grateful. "And you, Mrs. Sinclair, how did you get to where you are today?" Victoria smiled, a mixture of pride and melancholy in her eyes. "Ah, it's a long story. Let's just say it wasn't an easy road. I started from scratch, you know. My parents were teachers, wonderful people, but we didn't have much. I studied a lot and worked even harder. Every opportunity, every connection, I grasped tooth and nail." She paused, taking another sip of her cappuccino. "There were sacrifices, of course, relationships that didn't work out, missed moments with family. Sometimes I wonder if it was worth it." Noah watched her carefully, noticing the momentary vulnerability in her voice. "You seem to have achieved a lot. It must be rewarding." "Yes, it is," Victoria agreed, her gaze straying to the street outside. "But sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd made different choices." Her eyes returned to Noah, and for a moment, they both felt a deep connection, a mutual understanding of dreams deferred and paths not taken. The moment was interrupted by the soft ring of Victoria's phone. She checked it quickly, frowning. "Looks like I'll have to cut our breakfast short. There's a situation at the office that needs my attention." Noah nodded, already getting up. "Of course, Mrs. Sinclair, I'll be waiting in the car." As he drove away, Victoria called out to him. "Mr. Martinez." He turned, one eyebrow raised in question. "Thank you for the talk. It was, enlightening." Noah smiled, a genuine smile that lit up his eyes. "My pleasure, Mrs." Sinclair. As Noah left the cafe, Victoria allowed herself a moment's reflection. There was something about him, a mixture of strength and vulnerability, that intrigued her deeply. She found herself wanting to know more, wanting to understand what made Noah Martinez tick. Minutes later, they were in the car again, navigating the congested streets of Manhattan. The silence between them was different now, charged with a newfound understanding. "To the office, Mrs. Sinclair?" Noah asked, his eyes meeting hers in the rearview mirror. "Yes, please," she replied, her voice soft. Then, after a brief hesitation, she added, "And Mr. Martinez, you can call me Victoria." Noah blinked, surprised, before a small smile curved his lips. "Only if you call me Noah." Victoria felt an unexpected warmth spread through her chest. "Deal, Noah." The rest of the journey was made in comfortable silence, both of them processing the conversation they'd had and the revelations they'd shared. When they arrived at the imposing building that housed Victoria's office, Noah quickly got out to open the door for her. Stepping out of the car, Victoria stopped for a moment, her eyes meeting Noah's. "Thanks for the ride, Noah. I hope we can continue our conversation soon." Noah nodded, a slight blush coloring his cheeks. "It would be my pleasure, Victoria." As Victoria entered the building, she couldn't help but look back, catching one last glimpse of Noah. There was something going on between them, something that went beyond the employer-employee relationship. It was exciting and frightening at the same time. Noah, for his part, watched Victoria disappear into the building, his heart beating a little faster than usual. He knew he had to keep things professional, that the gulf between their worlds was too vast to cross. But there was something about Victoria, a mixture of strength and vulnerability, that attracted him in a way he had never experienced before. As he walked back to his car, Noah found himself looking forward to the rest of the day, to the moments he would spend with Victoria. He knew he was entering dangerous territory, that feelings like these could complicate everything. But at that moment, driving through the hectic streets of New York, Noah couldn't care less. For the first time in a long time, he felt alive, excited about the possibilities that the future could bring. Victoria, sitting in her living room with its panoramic view of the city, found herself distracted during her morning meetings. Her thoughts kept returning to Noah, to the way his eyes lit up when he smiled, to the quiet strength he exuded. She knew she should concentrate on her work, on the contracts and negotiations that awaited her. But a part of her, a part that had long been silenced by ambition and expectations, yearned for more of those moments of genuine connection. As the day progressed, both Victoria and Noah found themselves counting down the minutes until their next meeting. What had begun as a simple professional arrangement was quickly turning into something more, something neither of them had anticipated or was prepared to face. And as the sun began its descent over the Manhattan skyline, casting long shadows between the skyscrapers, Victoria and Noah, separated by floors of concrete and steel, shared the same thought. What would tomorrow bring? What new revelations, what new feelings would emerge as their lives continued to intertwine in unexpected ways? The city around them continued its frenetic pace, oblivious to the silent drama that was unfolding. But for Victoria and Noah, the world seemed to have subtly shifted on its axis, opening up possibilities that had previously seemed unimaginable. And so, with hearts racing and minds full of unanswered questions, they prepared for the next chapter in their unfolding story. The late afternoon sun cast a golden glow over the skyscrapers of Manhattan as Victoria Sinclair stepped out of the elevator on the first floor of her office. Her heels echoed on the polished marble as she walked towards the exit, her mind still filled with the day's events and, more significantly, thoughts of Noah. As she passed through the revolving doors, she spotted him immediately. Noah was leaning against the car, the last rays of sunlight accentuating the angles of his young face. When their gazes met, Victoria felt a familiar warmth spread through her chest. "Good afternoon, Victoria," Noah greeted, a soft smile on his lips as he opened the car door for her. "Hello, Noah," she replied, her voice softer than she had intended. "How was your day?" Noah shrugged, a mischievous glint in his eyes. "Oh, the usual. Driving around the city, thinking about life, wondering what a certain CEO does all day in that fancy office. Victoria laughed, surprised by the playful boldness in his tone. Believe me, it's not as glamorous as it sounds, mostly endless meetings and piles of paperwork. As Noah maneuvered the car into the late afternoon traffic, Victoria found herself studying his profile. There was an intensity to his concentration, a determination that she found attractive. "Where to, boss?" Noah asked, his eyes meeting hers in the rearview mirror. Victoria hesitated. The idea of going back to her empty apartment suddenly seemed unbearably lonely. "Actually, do you know any good places for dinner? Something casual, away from the center?" Noah raised an eyebrow, surprised. I know a great place in Queens, a small Italian restaurant. Nothing fancy, but the food is amazing." "Sounds perfect," Victoria smiled. "Take us there." As they left Manhattan behind, crossing the bridge into Queens, Victoria felt a strange sense of freedom. Here, away from the familiar stares and expectations of her corporate world, she could just be herself. The restaurant, as Noah had promised, was small and cozy. Soft lights, checkered tablecloths, and the scent of garlic and fresh herbs filled the air. As they entered, Victoria noticed the curious looks from the other customers. She knew they were an unusual pair, she in her Chanel tailor, Noah in his simple white shirt and slacks. "Table for two?" asked the hostess, a warm smile on her face. "Please," Victoria replied, following the woman to a table in the corner. Once they were seated, menus in hand, a comfortable silence settled between them. Victoria glanced over her menu, catching Noah watching her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. "What is it?" she asked, a slight blush coloring her cheeks. Noah shook his head, smiling. "Nothing. It's just, you seem different here, more relaxed." Victoria lowered her menu, considering his words. "I think I feel different here. It's like I can leave CEO Victoria behind for a moment." "And who is the Victoria who's here now?" Noah asked softly, his eyes fixed on hers. The question took Victoria by surprise. Who was she, really, outside of the corporate world that had defined her life for so long? I'm not sure," she finally admitted. "I think I'm rediscovering that part of me." Noah reached out, almost touching hers on the table, before holding back. "Well, I'm looking forward to meeting you." The moment was interrupted by the arrival of the waiter. They placed their orders, lasagna for Victoria, spaghetti alla carbonara for Noah, and soon found themselves engaged in easy, animated conversation. Victoria found herself fascinated by Noah's stories about growing up in the Bronx, about his dreams of becoming an engineer, about the difficulties and joys of caring for his mother. There was a resilience about him, a quiet strength that drew her inexorably. For his part, Noah drank in every word as Victoria talked about her early days, struggling to establish herself in the business world, about the endless nights working to prove her worth, about the loneliness that often accompanied success. As the evening progressed and the candles on her table burned low, Victoria found herself laughing more than she had in years. There was an ease to her interaction with Noah, a connection that went beyond age or social status. When they finally left the restaurant, night had fallen completely over the city. The streets were quieter now, the frenetic pace of New York slowing to a gentle hum. "Thank you for that, Noah," Victoria said softly as they walked side by side towards the car. It was wonderful," Noah smiled, that smile that made Victoria's heart skip a beat. "It was my pleasure, Victoria." "Really?" Standing next to the car, under the soft light of a street lamp, they turned to each other. The tension between them was palpable, charged with unspoken possibilities. Victoria felt her heart racing. She knew she was in dangerous territory. Noah was her employee. He was much younger. He came from a completely different world to her. But at that moment, looking into his eyes, none of that seemed to matter. Noah took a step forward, reducing the distance between them. "Victoria, The shrill sound of a cell phone cut through the air, making them both jump in surprise. Victoria cursed quietly, fishing the device out of her bag. Her assistant's name flashed on the screen. I need to take this, she said begrudgingly. Noah nodded, taking a step back. Sure, sure. As Victoria answered the call, taking a few steps away, Noah leaned on the car, running his hand through his hair in frustration. He knew he was falling for Victoria and suspected that she was feeling something similar. But the complications of his situation weighed heavily on him. How could it work? What would people say? Victoria returned a few minutes later, a rueful expression on her face. Sorry about that. There's a situation at the office that I need to deal with. Noah forced a smile. No problem. It's the price of being the boss, right? Victoria nodded, but there was a sadness in her eyes that Noah couldn't help but notice. I suppose so. The drive back to Manhattan was made in relative silence, the atmosphere in the car charged with unresolved tension and unrealized possibilities. When they arrived at Victoria's building, Noah got out to open the door for her. Thank you for the evening, Noah, Victoria said softly. It was special. Noah nodded, his eyes meeting hers. It really was. For a moment, they stood there on the sidewalk, the city lights shining around them. There was so much to be said, so many unexpressed feelings hanging in the air between them. Finally, Victoria took a step towards the entrance to her building. Good evening, Noah. Good evening, Victoria, he replied, watching her until she disappeared inside the building. As he drove back to his small apartment in the Bronx, Noah couldn't stop thinking about Victoria. Her smile, her laugh, the vulnerability she had shown during dinner. He knew he was falling in love with her, and the intensity of his feelings scared him. Victoria, for her part, spent hours awake in her luxurious apartment, replaying every moment of the evening in her mind. The ease of the conversation with Noah, the way he made her feel seen and understood in a way that no one had done in years. She knew she was entering dangerous waters, that there were countless reasons why a relationship between them would be complicated, if not impossible. But for the first time in a long time, she found herself wanting to take a chance, wanting to allow herself to feel. As the night wore on, both Victoria and Noah lay awake, thinking about each other, pondering the possibilities and the obstacles they would face. They knew they were on the brink of something significant, something that could change their lives forever. The question was, would they have the courage to take the next step? And so, while the city that never sleeps continued its relentless pace outside, two hearts beat in unison, separated by miles of physical distance, but united by a connection that neither of them had foreseen or was fully prepared to face. The future was uncertain, full of potential complications and challenges. But that night, lying in their beds, both Victoria and Noah allowed themselves to dream of what could be, of the possibility of a love that transcended age, class, and social expectations. The dawn would bring a new day, new decisions to be made, and new challenges to be faced. But for now, in the stillness of the night, two hearts allowed themselves hope, allowed themselves the possibility of an unexpected and transformative love. The morning arrived with a fine rain over New York, the drops of water sliding down the windows of Victoria Sinclair's luxurious apartment. She stood in front of the huge panoramic window, an untouched cup of coffee in her hands, watching the city awaken under the grey sky. The night before with Noah still hung vividly in her mind. Dinner, the laughter, that moment of almost palpable tension before the phone call interrupted. Victoria closed her eyes, allowing herself to relive for a moment the feeling of being so close to him, of seeing that look in his eyes that spoke of possibilities and unspoken promises. A sigh escaped her lips. What was she doing? Noah was her employee, and more than 2 decades younger. It was crazy to even consider. The shrill ring of her phone snapped her out of her reverie. It was Margaret, his personal assistant. Victoria, good morning. Margaret's efficient voice sounded on the other end of the line. Just a reminder that you have that meeting with the board at 9 a.m. and, there's something else. Victoria frowned, noticing the hesitation in Margaret's normally confident voice. What is it, Margaret? Well, a bouquet of flowers arrived for you this morning. No card. Victoria felt her heart race. Could it be from Noah? But how could he have sent flowers to the office so early? Thank you, Margaret. I'll be there in an hour." Hanging up the phone, Victoria headed for the closet, her mind a turmoil of thoughts. As she chose an elegant navy blue dress, she couldn't help wondering about the flowers. Part of her hoped they were from Noah, but another part feared the complications this might bring. On the other side of the city, in the Bronx, Noah Martinez was waking up in his small apartment, the sound of rain pounding on his window. He had slept little, his mind filled with images of Victoria, her smile, the sparkle in her eyes when she laughed, the vulnerability she had let show during dinner. As he prepared for work, Noah couldn't help the anxiety growing in his chest. What would it be like to see Victoria today, after the intimacy they had shared the night before? Would she regret it, try to keep things strictly professional? An hour later, Noah parked in front of the imposing building where Victoria worked. His heart was pounding as he waited, his eyes fixed on the entrance, anxious to see her. When Victoria emerged from the revolving doors, Noah felt the air leave his lungs. She looked as stunning as ever, but there was something different about her countenance, a mixture of expectation and apprehension that he couldn't quite decipher. "Good morning, Victoria," Noah greeted, opening the car door for her. "Hello, Noah," she replied, her eyes meeting his briefly before looking away. "To the office, please." During the drive, a tense silence hung between them. Noah glanced furtively through the rearview mirror, noticing how Victoria seemed lost in thought, her expression a mask of worry. Finally, unable to bear the silence any longer, Noah spoke up. "Victoria, about last night." "Noah," she interrupted him, her voice soft but firm. "I think we need to talk. But not now, not here. Can we meet later, after work?" Noah nodded, a lump forming in his throat. "Sure, anywhere you want." "In the park near my apartment, at 7. The rest of the journey passed in silence, the tension almost palpable in the confined air of the car. When they arrived at Victoria's office, she left quickly, only a brief "thank you" escaping her lips before disappearing into the building. Noah stood there watching her go, a mixture of anxiety and hope turning his stomach. What did she want to talk about? Would it be the end of whatever was beginning between them? The next few hours passed in a blur for both of them. Victoria immersed herself in work, trying to focus on meetings and reports, but her mind kept returning to Noah and the conversation they would have later. The mysterious flowers on her desk, an elegant arrangement of white lilies, only added to her confusion. Noah, for his part, had spent the day driving around the city, picking up other clients, but every street, every corner seemed to remind him of Victoria. He mentally rehearsed what he would say to her, how he would express his feelings without seeming foolish or inappropriate. At 6:45, Noah parked near the park, indicated by Victoria. The sky was still overcast, but the rain had stopped, leaving the air fresh and smelling of wet earth. He saw her coming a few minutes later, walking purposefully towards him. "Hi," she said softly, stopping a few steps away. "Hi," Noah replied, his heart racing at seeing her so close. They began to walk side by side along the park's paths, the silence between them heavy with unspoken words. Finally, Victoria stopped, turning to face him. "Noah, what's going on between us?" The direct question took him by surprise. Noah swallowed, searching for the right words. I don't know for sure, but I do know that I feel something for you, Victoria. Something I've never felt before." Victoria closed her eyes for a moment, as if absorbing the impact of his words. "Noah, this is complicated. You're my employee. I'm much older than you. Our worlds are completely different." "I know," Noah replied, taking a step towards her. "Believe me, I've thought about all this, but what I feel for you, that outweighs all these complications." Victoria felt her heart race at his closeness. "Noah, you're young. You have your whole life ahead of you. I don't want to be an obstacle to your dreams, to your opportunities." "You're not an obstacle, Victoria," Noah said, his voice charged with emotion. "You inspire me. You make me want to be better, to achieve more." Tears began to form in Victoria's eyes. "What if it doesn't work out? What if we ruin everything? Your career, My reputation. Noah reached out, gently touching her face. What if it works out? What if it's the best thing that's ever happened to both of us? Victoria closed her eyes, leaning slightly into his touch. When she opened them again, Noah could see the internal battle reflected in them. I'm afraid, Noah, she admitted in a whisper. Afraid of hurting myself, of hurting you, afraid of what people will say, what they'll think. I'm scared too, Noah confessed. But I'm more scared of letting it go, of never knowing what we could have been. At that moment, with the park silent around them and the sky beginning to lighten after a day of rain, Victoria felt something inside her give way. All the barriers she had built up over the years, all the rules she had imposed on herself, seemed insignificant in the face of the intensity of what she felt for Noah. This isn't going to be easy, she said, her voice trembling. Noah smiled, that smile that made her heart melt. The best things in life rarely are. Slowly, almost hesitantly, Victoria leaned forward. Noah met her halfway, their lips touching in a soft kiss, full of promise and possibility. When they broke apart, they were both panting, their foreheads resting against each other. What now? Victoria asked, a shy smile playing on her lips. Noah entwined his fingers in hers. Now, we find out together, one day at a time. As they walked hand in hand through the park, the reality of their situation was not lost on either of them. There would be challenges ahead, disapproving looks, office gossip, possible conflicts due to their different ages and backgrounds. But in that moment, with the warmth of each other's hands and the promise of a new beginning, everything seemed possible. Victoria looked at Noah, seeing in him not just the attractive young man who had captured her attention, but a partner, someone with whom she could share her fears, her hopes, her dreams. And for the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to dream of a future that went beyond professional achievements and financial success. Noah, for his part, saw in Victoria not just the successful, sophisticated woman who had intimidated him at first, but a soulmate, someone who challenged him to be better, to reach his full potential. By her side, he felt he could conquer the world. As the sun began to set, casting golden hues over the city, Victoria and Noah left the park, ready to face whatever the future held together. They knew that the road ahead would not be easy, but they were willing to fight for this unexpected love that had blossomed between them. And so, under the New York sky, a new love story began to be written, defying convention and proving that sometimes the best romances are those that take you by surprise. The weeks following the confession in the park were a roller coaster of emotions for Victoria and Noah. The new couple carefully navigated the uncharted waters of their relationship, balancing the excitement of a new love with the complexities of their unique circumstances. Victoria woke up on a Saturday morning, the autumn sun filtering through the curtains of her bedroom. She smiled as she felt the warmth of Noah's body next to her. It was still surreal for her, waking up next to someone after so many years alone. "Good morning," Noah murmured, his eyes slowly opening. He smiled, that smile that still made Victoria's heart flutter. "Good morning," she replied, leaning in for a soft kiss. As they prepared breakfast together in the spacious kitchen of Victoria's apartment, the domesticity of the scene did not go unnoticed by either of them. It was an ordinary Saturday for many couples, but for them it represented something deep and meaningful. "So," Noah began, pouring coffee for them both, "what do you want to do today?" Victoria hesitated, a shadow passing across her face. "Actually, I was thinking, maybe it's time we told a few people about us." Noah placed his cup on the counter, his expression serious. "Are you sure? I mean, don't get me wrong, I want the world to know, but I know it could complicate things for you at work." Victoria nodded, taking Noah's hand in hers. "I know, but I don't want to hide. Not from you, not from what I feel." The morning passed with a series of phone calls. Victoria first called Margaret, her trusted assistant. The conversation was brief, but full of emotion. "Margaret, I need to tell you something," Victoria began, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm in a relationship with Noah, my driver." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line before Margaret answered, "Oh, Victoria, Well, I can't say I'm completely surprised. There was something different about you over the last few weeks. Victoria laughed nervously. That obvious? Only to those who know you well, Margaret replied, her voice softening. Look, I'm not going to pretend that this isn't going to cause a stir, but if he makes you happy, well, you deserve it. Victoria. Margaret's words of support brought tears to Victoria's eyes. She knew the road ahead would be challenging, but having allies like Margaret would make all the difference. Noah, for his part, called his mother Carmen. The conversation was in Spanish, quick and emotional. "Mom, I've met someone," Noah said, his voice shaking with nervousness. She's older than me, and my boss." "Oh, piss," Carmen sighed on the other end of the line. "You always did like to complicate things, didn't you?" Noah laughed, relieved by his mother's calm reaction. "She makes me happy, Mom, very happy." "Then that's what matters," Carmen replied firmly. "But I want to get to know her, understand, bring her to dinner next week." When they hung up, Noah turned to Victoria, a nervous smile on his face. "My mom wants to meet you next week." Victoria felt a knot forming in her stomach. Meeting Noah's mother seemed to make everything very real, very serious. But she nodded, determined. "Of course, I can't wait to meet her." The rest of the day passed in a blur of planning and discussions. They knew that news of their relationship would spread quickly once they started telling people. Victoria decided that she would speak to the company's board on Monday, preferring to let them know from her before the rumors started circulating. In the evening, emotionally exhausted but feeling closer than ever, Victoria and Noah were lying in bed, the lights of New York shining through the window. "Are you sorry?" Noah asked softly, tracing lazy patterns on Victoria's arm. She turned to face him, her eyes serious. "Not for a second." "And you?" Noah smiled, pulling her closer. "Never." On Monday, Victoria entered her office earlier than usual. She had requested an emergency meeting with the board, and her stomach was in knots. Noah had offered to wait for her, but she insisted that he follow his normal routine. This was something she needed to face alone. At 9 a.m. sharp, Victoria entered the meeting room. The familiar faces of the board members stared at her with expressions that ranged from curiosity to concern. "Thank you for coming at such short notice," Victoria began, her voice firm despite the nervousness she felt. "There's something I need to share with you, something that will affect the company and, potentially, my position here." She paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "I'm in a relationship with an employee of the company, Noah Martinez, my driver." The silence that followed was deafening. Victoria could see the expressions of shock and disbelief on the faces around her. Finally, Gerald Thompson, the longest-serving member of the board, spoke up. "Victoria, do you understand the implications of this? The company's policies on relationships between employees, especially between an executive and a subordinate." "I understand completely, Gerald," Victoria interrupted him, "and I'm prepared to face any consequences. But I thought you deserved to know from me." Before the rumors started circulating, the meeting that followed was tense and, at times, heated. Questions of ethics, possible accusations of favoritism, and concerns about the company's image were raised. Victoria faced each argument with calm and determination, making it clear that while she valued her position in the company, she would not give up her relationship with Noah. After 2 hours of discussion, it was decided that an internal investigation would be conducted to ensure that there had been no abuse of power or favoritism. Victoria also agreed to temporarily step aside from any decision that directly affected Noah's department. When the meeting finally ended, Victoria felt exhausted but relieved. She knew that this was only the beginning, that there would be more challenges ahead. But she also felt a freedom she hadn't experienced for years. There were no more secrets, no more need to hide. That evening, when Noah arrived at Victoria's apartment, he found her on the balcony, looking out over the city. "How was it?" he asked softly, wrapping his arms around her. Victoria turned around, burying her face in his chest. "Difficult, but necessary." She looked up, meeting his eyes. "It was worth it." "You're worth it," Noah kissed her softly, all his love and support conveyed in that simple gesture. "We're in this together, remember? No matter what." As they stood there, embracing on the balcony with the city at their feet, Victoria and Noah knew that the road ahead would be challenging. There would be disapproving looks, mean-spirited gossip, and obstacles they couldn't even foresee. But in that moment, with each other's warmth and the promise of a future together, they felt invincible. The sun was setting over New York, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. It was a new chapter in their lives, one they would write together, defying expectations and proving that love, when true, can overcome any barrier. And so, embraced on the balcony of Victoria's apartment, Noah and she allowed themselves to dream of the future. A future that, although uncertain and full of challenges, promised to be brighter and more satisfying than either of them could have imagined on their own. The aroma of home-cooked food filled the small apartment in the Bronx. Victoria Sinclair, normally so confident in boardrooms and high-level negotiations, felt strangely nervous as she helped Noah set the table for dinner. Tonight, she would meet Carmen, Noah's mother. "Relax," Noah said softly, placing his hands on Victoria's tense shoulders. "My mum will love you." Victoria forced a smile, nervously adjusting the collar of her silk blouse. She had opted for a more casual look than her usual business suit, hoping not to appear too intimidating. "What if she doesn't like me? What if she thinks I'm too old for you?" Noah laughed, pulling her into a hug. "First of all, no one could dislike you. Secondly, my mother only cares about my happiness, and you make me very happy." Before Victoria could reply, there was a knock on the door. Noah gave her a last comforting kiss on the forehead before going to answer it. "Mijo." Carmen's warm voice filled the apartment as she hugged her son. Her eyes, identical to Noah's, were soon fixed on Victoria. "And you must be Victoria." Victoria stepped forward, holding out her hand. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Martinez." To her surprise, Carmen ignored the outstretched hand and pulled her into a tight hug. "No, Mrs. Martinez. Call me Carmen. We're family now." Dinner went surprisingly smoothly. Carmen was a great storyteller, keeping Victoria and Noah entertained with tales from his childhood and anecdotes from her life as a nurse. Victoria was impressed by the older woman's resilience and good humor, despite the difficulties she had faced as an immigrant raising a child on her own. "So, Victoria," Carmen said, pouring herself some more wine, "Noah tells me you're a very successful businesswoman." Victoria blushed slightly. "I've been very lucky and worked hard." Carmen nodded, her keen eyes studying Victoria. "And now, what's it like dating someone so much younger?" "Mum," Noah warned, but Carmen ignored him. Victoria took a deep breath, deciding to be honest. Challenging at times. There are times when I worry about what people think or whether I'm being fair to Noah. But then I look at him and..." She smiled, taking Noah's hand on the table. "And I know it's worth every challenge." Carmen watched the exchange between them, a soft smile on her lips. "You know, when Noah told me about you, I was worried. I thought maybe you were just having fun with my son." She held up a hand when Victoria started to protest. "But seeing the two of you together, it's obvious that there's real love here." Carmen's words brought tears to Victoria's eyes. Noah's mother's acceptance meant more than she could express. Later that night, after Carmen had left with promises of more family dinners, Victoria and Noah were lying in bed, reflecting on the evening. "See, I told you she'd love you," Noah teased gently. Victoria smiled, snuggling closer to him. "Your mom is amazing, Noah. You were very lucky to grow up with her." Noah was silent for a moment, his fingers absent-mindedly playing with Victoria's hair. "You know, it got me thinking. You never talk much about your family." Victoria tensed for a moment, before relaxing with a sigh. "There's not much to tell. My parents died in a car accident when I was 22. I'm an only child. Since then, it's just been me." Noah pulled her closer, kissing the top of her head. "I'm sorry, Vic. It must have been hard." "It was," she admitted softly. "I guess that's why I threw myself into work so much. It was easier than dealing with the loss." They were silent for a while, the sound of the city outside a distant melody. "Well," Noah finally said, "now you have me, and my mother. We're your family now." Victoria felt her heart expand at his words. It was scary and exciting at the same time, the idea of being part of a family again. The days that followed brought new challenges. In the office, Victoria could feel the stares and hear the whispers as she passed. Some colleagues treated her coldly, clearly disapproving of her relationship with Noah. Others seemed uncertain about how to act around her. One afternoon, while Victoria was concentrating on some reports, Margaret entered her office, closing the door behind her. "Victoria, we need to talk," she said, her expression serious. Victoria felt her stomach sink. "What's wrong, Margaret?" Her assistant hesitated for a moment before speaking. "There are rumors circulating. Some council members are questioning your leadership skills. They think your relationship with Noah shows a lack of judgment." Victoria closed her eyes, feeling a surge of anger and frustration. "I see. And what do you think, Margaret?" Margaret sat up, her gaze softening. "I think you're the same brilliant and capable leader you've always been. But Victoria, you need to be prepared. This could get ugly." Victoria nodded, grateful for her assistant's honesty and loyalty. "Thank you, Margaret. I'll deal with it." That evening, Victoria came home exhausted, both physically and emotionally. Noah, who had started spending more time in her apartment, immediately noticed her downcast expression. "Hey, what's wrong?" he asked, pulling her into a hug. Victoria buried her face in his chest, allowing herself a moment of vulnerability. "Just problems at work. Nothing you need to worry about." Noah gently pushed her away, his eyes searching hers. "Vic, we're in this together, remember? Tell me what's going on." Reluctantly, Victoria shared what Margaret had said. As she spoke, she could see the guilt growing in Noah's eyes. "This is my fault," he said softly. "If I hadn't been in your life—" "No," Victoria interrupted him firmly. "Don't you dare finish that sentence. You're the best thing that's ever happened in my life, Noah. I don't regret a thing." Noah pulled her close again, kissing her with an intensity that took her breath away. When they broke apart, they were both panting. "We'll get through this," Noah promised, "together." Victoria nodded, feeling a wave of determination fill her. She had built her empire from scratch, faced countless challenges along the way. This was just one more obstacle to overcome. In the days that followed, Victoria redoubled her efforts at work. She arrived early, left late, ensuring that every project under her supervision was flawless. She organized individual meetings with each member of the board, reaffirming her commitment to the company and demonstrating that her relationship with Noah did not affect her ability to lead. Noah, for his part, began to consider his own options. He knew that his presence in the company complicated things for Victoria. One evening, while they were having dinner on the balcony of her apartment, he brought up the subject. "I've been thinking," he began hesitantly, "maybe I should look for another job, something outside your company." Victoria stopped eating, studying him intently. "Is that what you want?" Noah sighed, running a hand through his hair. "What I want is to make things easier for you. Well, maybe it's time I went back to college, finished my engineering degree." A slow smile spread across Victoria's face. "Noah, that's wonderful. If that's what you want, I totally support you." He smiled back, feeling a weight come off his shoulders. "It's going to be difficult. I'm going to have to work and study at the same time." "And I'll be by your side every step of the way," Victoria promised, leaning in to kiss him. As the evening progressed, Victoria and Noah discussed plans and dreams for the future. There were challenges ahead, and of course, the path they had chosen would not be easy, but together they felt capable of facing anything. The next morning, Victoria woke up with a new determination. She had an important meeting with the council, and she was ready to face any opposition head-on. As she got ready, Noah watched her from bed, a proud smile on his face. "You're going to rock," he said, pulling her in for one last kiss before she left. Victoria smiled against his lips. "I know. I have you by my side after all." And with that, she left, ready to face the world. The future was uncertain, full of potential obstacles and challenges, but with Noah by her side, Victoria felt invincible. Together, they were ready to write the next chapter of their love story, proving that true love can indeed overcome all barriers. Victoria's high heels echoed through the quiet corridors of the office. It was early. The sun had barely risen, but she wanted to arrive before everyone else to prepare for the board meeting. Her heart was pounding in her chest, a mixture of nervousness and determination pulsing through her veins. On entering her office, Victoria was surprised by Margaret, who was already there, a steaming cup of coffee in hand. "I thought you might need this," Margaret said, holding out the cup. Victoria smiled gratefully. "You know me too well." The two women spent the next hour going over documents and strategies. Victoria knew that this meeting would be crucial. She needed to prove once and for all that her relationship with Noah didn't affect her ability to lead the company. At 9 a.m., sharp, Victoria entered the meeting room, head held high and shoulders back. The board members were already there, their faces a mixture of expressions. Some worried, others skeptical, a few openly hostile. "Good morning, everyone," Victoria began, her voice firm and confident. "Before we start with the regular agenda, I'd like to address the elephant in the room." She paused, her eyes scanning every face on the table. "My personal relationship has been the subject of much discussion and speculation. Today, I want to make it clear that my commitment to this company and my leadership skills remain unwavering." For 2 hours, Victoria presented detailed reports, financial projections, and strategic plans. She answered every question with precision and confidence, demonstrating an in-depth knowledge of every aspect of the business. By the end of the meeting, even her staunchest critics seemed impressed. Gerald Thompson, who had been one of the most vocal in his opposition, was the first to speak. "Victoria, I must admit that I was concerned when I heard about your relationship with Mr. Martinez, but today you proved that my concerns were unfounded. Your performance was exemplary." Victoria felt a weight come off her shoulders. "Thank you, Gerald. I hope this has cleared up any doubts about my commitment to the company." When the meeting was over, Victoria allowed herself a moment of relief in her office. She picked up the phone, her fingers dialing Noah's number automatically. "Hey," his warm voice greeted her. "How was it?" Victoria smiled, feeling light for the first time in weeks. "It went well. Very well, actually." "I knew you'd do it," Noah said, pride evident in his voice. "How about we celebrate tonight?" "Sounds perfect," Victoria replied. "But first, I have a surprise for you. Can you meet me at the cafe near your apartment in an hour?" Noah agreed, intrigued, and Victoria hung up with a smile on her lips. She had plans to make. An hour later, Victoria entered the small cafe in the Bronx, spotting Noah immediately. He looked nervous and excited at the same time, his eyes sparkling when he saw her. "Okay, I'm curious," he said as soon as she sat down. "What's the surprise?" Victoria smiled, taking an envelope out of her bag and handing it to him. Noah opened it, his eyes widening as he read the contents. "Vic, this is," he stammered, looking at her in amazement. "A full scholarship for you to finish your engineering degree," Victoria added softly. "I spoke to some friends at university. They were impressed with your record and agreed to take you back on a full scholarship." Noah was silent for a moment, conflicting emotions flashing across his face. "Vic, I don't know what to say. This is incredible, but, Victoria asked, feeling a twinge of concern. Noah took a deep breath. "But I don't want people to think I'm with you for the money or the opportunities. I want to achieve things for myself." Victoria reached out, taking his hand on the table. "Noah, listen. This scholarship has nothing to do with me. It's based entirely on your merits. All I did was put your name forward for consideration. The rest was all you." Noah looked her in the eye, searching for any sign of doubt. Finding only sincerity and love, he finally smiled. "Thank you, Vic. That means a lot." They spent the next hour discussing the details of the scholarship and Noah's plans for the future. Victoria could see the excitement growing in him as he talked about the classes he would take, the projects he wanted to develop. Suddenly, In the middle of the conversation, Noah became serious. "Vic, there's something I need to tell you." Victoria felt her heart race. "What is it?" I resigned today," Noah said, his words coming out in a rush. "I thought it would be better, for you, for the company. And now with this opportunity to go back to college." Victoria was silent for a moment, processing the information. Part of her felt relieved. This would certainly simplify things at work. But another part felt a twinge of sadness. She had gotten used to having Noah around, even if it was only as her driver. "I understand," she finally said. "I think it's the right decision, all things considered. But I'll miss you there." Noah smiled, squeezing her hand. "Hey, you'll still see me every day. It just won't be at the office." They left the cafe hand in hand, walking through the familiar streets of the Bronx. The future looked bright and full of possibilities, but also a little scary. They were both embarking on new journeys, Victoria leading her company with renewed confidence, Noah returning to his studies to pursue his dreams. That evening, as they dined on the balcony of Victoria's apartment, with the city sparkling below them, Noah raised his glass in a toast. "To us," he said, his eyes fixed on hers, "and to all the adventures that await us." Victoria smiled, touching her glass to his. "To us." As they savored the wine and each other's company, Victoria reflected on how much their lives had changed in such a short time. A few months ago, she was a lonely CEO, focused only on her career. Now she had Noah, she had love. She had a life outside the office that filled her in a way that professional success never could. Of course, there were still challenges ahead. The corporate world could be ruthless, and she knew there would always be those who would question her relationship with Noah. And Noah would face his own challenges, balancing his studies with work and adapting to an academic environment after years away. But looking at Noah now, seeing the love and trust in his eyes, Victoria knew they could face anything together. "What are you thinking about?" Noah asked softly, noticing her distant gaze. Victoria smiled, leaning in to kiss him softly. "How lucky I am to have you in my life." Noah returned the kiss, pulling her closer. "I'm the lucky one here," he murmured against her lips. As the night wore on, Victoria and Noah remained on the balcony, talking about their dreams, fears, and hopes for the future. They knew that the road ahead wouldn't always be easy, but they were ready to face every challenge together. As the city lights flickered below them, Victoria allowed herself to dream of a future that, just a few months ago, she would never have imagined for herself. A future full of love, laughter, and the thrill of new possibilities. Their future with Noah. And so, embraced under the starry New York sky, Victoria and Noah prepared for the next chapter in their lives, a chapter that promised to be full of challenges, but also of love, growth, and the joy of building a life together. The city that never sleeps continued its relentless pace below them, but on that balcony, at that moment, time seemed to have stopped. It was just Victoria and Noah, two hearts beating as one, ready to face whatever the future held, together. The spring sun bathed Central Park in a soft golden light. Victoria Sinclair walked hand in hand with Noah, the sound of laughter and animated conversation filling the air around them. It was a perfect Saturday, the kind of day that made Victoria wonder how she ever lived a life so focused solely on work. 2 years had passed since that fateful night on the balcony, when Victoria and Noah decided to face all the challenges the future might bring together. And there was certainly no shortage of challenges. Noah plunged headlong into his studies, balancing a part-time job as a math tutor with demanding engineering classes. There were nights when Victoria found him asleep over his books, exhausted but determined. She admired his perseverance, the sparkle in his eyes when he talked about a particularly challenging project or an exciting discovery. For Victoria, the last 2 years had brought their own trials and triumphs. Although most of the board members had accepted her relationship with Noah after that crucial meeting, there were still moments of tension and occasional gossip in the corridors of the company. But Victoria discovered an inner strength that even she didn't know she possessed. Every challenge, every disapproving glance, only made her more determined to prove her worth not only as a CEO, but as a woman capable of balancing a successful career with a satisfying romantic relationship. "What are you thinking?" Noah asked, noticing Victoria's distant gaze. She smiled, squeezing his hand. "About how we've changed in the last 2 years. How we've grown together." Noah nodded, a soft smile on his lips. "It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?" They stopped by a bench overlooking the lake, sitting down to enjoy the sunny day. Victoria rested her head on Noah's shoulder, feeling perfectly content. "You know," Noah began, his voice a little hesitant, "there's something I wanted to talk to you about." Victoria straightened up, noticing the seriousness in his tone. "What is it, love?" Noah took a deep breath, turning to face her fully. "Remember that internship I mentioned at the green technology company?" Victoria nodded. Noah had told her about this opportunity a few weeks ago, a chance to work on innovative sustainable energy projects. "Well, they've offered me a full-time position after graduation," Noah continued, a mixture of excitement and nervousness in his voice. "It's an incredible opportunity, Vic, but it's in San Francisco." Victoria felt her heart race. San Francisco, on the other side of the country, far from New York, far from her. "Oh," was all she managed to say at first, her mind a jumble of conflicting emotions. Noah took her hands in his eyes searching hers. "I know it's a huge change, and I didn't even think of accepting it without talking to you first. We're a team, right?" Victoria felt tears forming in her eyes, but brushed them away with a quick wink. "Of course we are," she said softly. "Noah, this is an incredible opportunity for you. I can't ask you to turn it down." "And I can't ask you to leave your life here," Noah replied, the anguish clear in his voice. "Your company, everything you've built." They were silent for a moment, the weight of the decision hanging over them. Victoria looked out over the lake, watching a couple of ducks swimming peacefully. Her mind was in turmoil, thinking of all the possibilities, all the scenarios. Finally, she turned to Noah, a newfound determination in her eyes. What if I didn't have to leave everything behind?" Noah frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" Victoria straightened her shoulders, her mind working quickly. "Noah, for the last 2 years I've been working to make the company more self-sufficient. Margaret has taken on more responsibilities, and we have a strong leadership team. Maybe it's time for me to take a step back, take on a more consultative role." "Vic," Noah began, but she gently interrupted him. "Listen, love, I've spent most of my adult life building this company, and I love it. I really do. But in the last 2 years, since you came into my life, I've realized that there's more to life than balance sheets and quarterly reports." She paused, a soft smile forming on her lips. "You taught me how to live again, Noah. To laugh, to dream, to take risks. Maybe it's time I took another chance." Noah looked at her with a mixture of love and admiration. "Would you do that? Leave New York, your company?" Victoria nodded, feeling a wave of certainty fill her. "For you? Yes. Besides," she added with a mischievous smile, "I've always wanted to see what Silicon Valley is like. Who knows what opportunities I might find there." Noah pulled her into a tight hug, burying his face in her hair. "I love you so much, Victoria Sinclair," he murmured. "I love you too, Noah Martinez," she replied, feeling light-hearted and emotional at the same time. When they parted, Noah had a mischievous glint in his eyes. "You know, I had planned to do this in a much more romantic way, but—" He got up from the bench, to Victoria's surprise, and knelt in front of her. Victoria's heart stopped for a moment, her breath caught in her throat. "Victoria Sinclair," Noah began, his voice trembling slightly with emotion. "You've changed my life in ways I could never have imagined. You inspired me to be better, to dream bigger, to love more deeply. Our path hasn't been easy, but each challenge has only made us stronger." He paused, taking a small velvet box out of his pocket. "I want to face all future challenges by your side, as your partner, your best friend, your husband, Victoria. Will you marry me?" Tears were running freely down Victoria's face now, but she hardly noticed them. Her heart seemed to want to leap out of her chest, full of love and happiness. "Yes," she whispered, then louder. "Yes, Noah. Say 1,000 times yes." Noah slid the ring onto her finger, an elegant solitaire that perfectly captured the sunlight, before standing up and pulling her into a passionate kiss. All around them, people clapped and whistled, but Victoria and Noah barely noticed. At that moment, it was just the two of them, lost in their own bubble of happiness. When they finally separated, panting and smiling, Victoria looked at the ring on her finger. "It's beautiful," she murmured. Noah smiled, a little shyly. "I've saved every penny of my tutoring work. I wanted it to be something special, something I'd earned for myself." Victoria felt her heart expand even more with love for this incredible man. "It's perfect," she said, pulling him in for another kiss. As they walked back to Victoria's apartment, now engaged and with plans for a big change ahead, they both reflected on the journey that had brought them there. "You know," Victoria said, waving her intertwined hands, "if someone had told me 2 years ago that I would be engaged to a younger man and planning to move to California, I would have laughed in their face." Noah laughed. "And if someone told me I'd be engaged to the most amazing CEO in New York and about to start my dream career, I'd have thought they were crazy." They stopped, turning to each other. "But here we are," Victoria said softly. "Here we are," Noah agreed, leaning in for a soft kiss. In the months that followed, Victoria and Noah faced a series of new challenges. There was the monumental task of preparing Victoria's company for its transition to a more consultative role, the logistical complications of a transcontinental move, and the inevitable moments of doubt and anxiety. But with every obstacle, they turned to each other, finding strength and comfort in their love. Carmen, Noah's mother, wept with happiness when she heard about their engagement and promised to visit them often in San Francisco. Victoria's team, although sad to see her go, expressed gratitude for everything she had done and enthusiasm for the new phase of the company. Finally, on a sunny fall morning, Victoria and Noah boarded a plane to San Francisco, ready to begin the next chapter of their lives. As the plane took off, Victoria looked out of the window, watching New York City diminish below them. "Ready for our new adventure?" Noah asked, squeezing her hand. Victoria turned to him, her heart full of love and anticipation. "With you by my side, always." And so, as the plane flew west, Victoria reflected on the incredible journey that had brought her here, from a lonely, workaholic CEO to a woman deeply in love, ready to embrace a new life. She didn't know exactly what the future held, but she was sure of one thing. With Noah by her side, it was going to be an incredible adventure. The sun was shining on the horizon, promising a new dawn, a new beginning, and Victoria Sinclair, the future Mrs. Martinez, was more than ready to embrace him with open arms.